once in a while you have like your own little pity party. Now, I'm having a pity party for no real reason, I will say, because I have a fabulous life. It's just there's nothing really that I can say that's wrong other than I feel bad because it's that time of the month. And I know that's why I feel bad. I feel blue because just it's the middle of the winter. It's raining. Everybody's complaining about something, and it's just my career and paths are going a little bit slower than I'd like about now. It just seems like a lot of drudgery and pushing along, and I'm always thinking, okay, winners never quit, quitters never win, but damn, I'm tired sometimes, and I feel like crap. But let me just tell you, I do some coaching, and today I was coaching a young lady who is in transition. And this young lady who had tried lots of careers was feeling so bad. I was telling her, and she had talked to therapists and things like that, strategies to switch out of feeling bad. But I know that when you are in transition, when you're between jobs or underemployed, it's, oh my God, very scary. And I know it's very scary because, recently, for those of you who have listened to me on when I was over in Blog Talk Radio, even though you still can hear me at Blog Talk Radio, I told you about my husband going through his unemployment and how demoralizing it was. And I have a sister who, with a master's degree in business and a JD, a law degree, was unemployed for 3 years. So you think about money and happiness and how much is enough and people who are on the edge, and a lot of people are on the edge right now. In America, the real numbers are really about 25 million people who are unemployed or underemployed and not living their passion or dream. Well, how do you do that, and how does money play in? But the other thing is, if for people who've traveled, one thing that I've realized is that I've been to some very poor countries, and the people are happy. So how is this? How is it that you go places where people look like they're living in cardboard boxes, in tin cans, and they seem to be joyful and happy? Whereas we come here to America, and even people who are poor, many times, underemployed, unemployed, still have a lot more than these people who are just really, I'll call it dirt poor. Dirt poor because these people are living most of the time on dirt and they don't know where their food is coming from. So what's happening here in America? One thing as I see especially in our political landscape, is there's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of accusations going around. It's us versus them versus us. People are stealing from us. The bosses are bad. Nobody's out for us. And so there's this negative Nancy type attitude, doomsday Don, that seems to be just going around in our country. And it has to do with people feeling like they've been shortchanged in life when we're going through a downtime. Now, we all know, maybe we don't all know, but those of us who look at history know that we go through up and down phases in our cultures, in our societies, and guess what? The beauty about America is generally we come out of it. So, but what does money have to do with this? How come some people and some cultures with very meager means are joyful and happy? And then you get the country like America where people are relatively wealthy, even people who claim to be poor or who sit even below the poverty line are wealthy compared to other countries. Now, I'm not saying anybody should live like this. Poverty has increased over the last 4 to 5 years, unfortunately. It has increased. And an interesting thing is I always point out to people that here we are in our country with Mr. Obama. I'm African-American. It's great to see an African-American president, but guess what? More African-Americans are in poverty under Mr. Obama, our black president. Yet we are very happy as black people because we have a black president, although we're falling off the earth financially. Okay. So what is it about the African-American culture where despite us doing horrible financially, health-wise, educationally, we're able to muster up that joy and go to church and say, joy comes in the morning. Is it that we think we're going to die and go to heaven and it's all going to be good and that? But what is it that causes people to be happy emotionally, psychologically, and how does it correlate with money? So here we are. We're going to discuss that today. Okay, so here's the thing. If I get like crazy on you, just remember it is that time of month. I'm letting you know. Sam is over here laughing at me because I'm just so brutally honest. It is. I'm just feeling like But let's bring on some of our guests. Some of them you've heard before. They're very delightful. But let me just tell you, I have coming up a gentleman who was voted as the happiest man in the United States. And so he's going to tell us secrets, and he's had some scientific testing done and blah, 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 so that it's like this is the happiest man. So what is it that makes somebody the happiest man? So we're going to learn about that. But interestingly, I have the happiest man, and then I have all these venerated doctoral-wielding women who are going to tell us like it is in before and around us hearing from the happiest man. And if he can remain happy after hearing from a woman this time of month, plus the 3 aggressive doctoral women, this is a happy man. So let's get started. Let me just tell you, if you want to call in and talk about money and happiness or happiness in general or being sad, and I do really believe that happiness is a choice. So 877-480-4120. You're on Talking Alternative, and let me just do a plug for the next show. You got to come listen to the Ivory Tower. If you want to be happy and chuckle, Larry Sharp, who does the Ivory Tower, will make you mad, so you just have to laugh sometime. So come by and listen if you want to be happy. Listen to the Ivory Tower. He comes on right after me, and you get a solid 2 hours of him. I don't know how he does it for 2 hours. I don't know how he keeps it going. But he doesn't even hardly want anybody to come on the show and talk to him because he just wants to yak the whole time. And he sits here, and it's funny and comical. So that's my fellow host, Larry. He might, show up today and say something about money and happiness because he has something to say about everything, okay? So let's get started. I have a lady who writes for a very popular magazine that you see on newsstands. Her name is Dr. Melanie Greenberg, and she wrote an article, Is Money the Secret to Happiness? Which is why I invited her on, because is money the secret to happiness? There are some facts that we need to know about the correlation between money and happiness. And then in her psychology way, she's going to interpret how can we use some of these facts to change the way that we think, because it really is all about mindset and changing the way you think. But remember, when you want to change anything, 30 days. It's going to take at least 30 days of the habit. So Dr. Melanie Greenberg, welcome to Wellness for the Real World.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on your show, Dr. Veronica.
Thank you. Now, tell us about this. America is a wealthy country. There's all these other poor countries. I've been to some of them. Yet Americans seem kind of down about their life. Mm-hmm. What's going on in America, the rich country, versus some of these other poor countries?
Yeah, America is the richest country in the world, and we're only number 11 in the world on happiness. And what I think is going on is a couple different things. One is in our culture, it's always in our faces that some people have more. It's the kind of the advertising culture. If you look on TV, you see the Real Housewives and their mansions, or all around you. It's kind of in your face that you don't have enough, that somebody else is better off than you, and you need to be striving for that. And I think that's a piece of it, that it makes you dissatisfied with what you have. Your needs keep changing. I think another piece of it is that we don't have as much sense of community as some other cultures. Like if they all live in a small village together, they spend their lives with extended family and friends that they can build these long-term helpful relationships with. And if you're sick, the neighbors bring you food and look after your kids. And And here, because it's so mobile, there's often a sense of isolation. That if we are on our own, if we kind of get it, if things go bad for us. So I think those would be two reasons.
But now, what's going on with it says more money does make people happier, but you say there's a limit to that. What's the limit to more money and happiness?
Yeah, exactly. I think they find that if you don't have enough money to meet basic needs, it's much harder to be happier. And, that's because you feel vulnerable. You feel like on the edge. You may just be one illness away from poverty or homelessness. If you have a stressful event happen, like a car accident, or you have very much fewer resources to help you deal with it. If you're rich, say something bad happened to you, like somebody you were robbed. If you're rich, you can go and get therapy for your fear. You can put in better security systems. So when you're poor, you're more vulnerable. You don't have as much resources. But there's a limit to that, I think, and they found it's around if you earn $75,000 or more a year. Above that, more money doesn't seem to add very much to happiness.
Interesting, because here we are, I'm casting from New York City, where I'll let you know around the world that middle class is $250,000.
Yeah. That's an average figure, and I'm in Marin County, which is very similar. So it's an average figure. So I think you'd probably have to adjust the figure for a neighborhood, maybe slightly more.
Yeah,
but they averaged a bunch of different places.
You could be in New York City, be a professional, like a physician, and be very, and if you're a physician that, people think they all make a lot of money, but let's say you're a physician and you're making $100,000 and you're in New York City. Guess what? You're like on the edge.
I hear you. I hear you. Yes, it's crazy. I think that's a really good point. It's relative to the expense. But, I think those are probably the unusual. Or, there's a lot of places where 75 is a lot. Or maybe not a lot, but just enough that you can, kind of have a house and still have to work really hard, but maybe you can have some health care. Maybe you can take an annual camping trip, so that you have a vacation.
Well, Dr. Greenberg, I want you to hold on. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what people spend their money on and what tends to make people happier versus not so happy. And you're listening to Wellness for the Real World. I'm Dr. Veronica. Call us at 877-480-4120. We're on talkingalternative.com.
Are you concerned about...
And this is Dr. Veronica. You're listening to Wellness for the Real World. Buying happiness. Can money give us happiness? And I'm talking now to Dr. Melanie Greenberg. You can read her pieces in Psychology Today. She writes some great stuff. I, go and look for her specifically because I like her articles that lay out everything. So you might want to do the same on psychologytoday.com. What about what we spend our money on? Do those, I finished watching the Oscars. I'm watching these beautiful dresses, all this great jewelry, and thinking, oh, gosh, if I could just dress like that and wear all those beautiful clothes and have my hair done and makeup done, it's just going to be wonderful because I'm going to be a queen, a princess. What do people spend their money on that really makes them happy?
That's also interesting. Yeah, because I think, every girl has a princess fantasy. But actually, the dress is not going to make you as happy as if you spend your money on life experiences. And that's just because of how our brains work. So we get tired of things. It's often the greatest pleasure is just in the buying and in getting that purchase. Afterwards, we kind of adjust to it. It just feels normal to have that dress. And then we start thinking, what's the latest model this season? So we adjust in a way that we keep wanting more and more, and we adjust to what we have, so it stops giving us as much pleasure. And the other thing is we kind of compare ourselves to others, and that can destroy happiness. Yeah, I've got this dress, but gee, hers is so much better.
Now, to tell you,
whereas with life experiences, it's more, I think what it does is that it creates, a story for you of your life. It brings you closer to other people that you share the experiences with. Often there might be a challenge to it where you master a new skill, learn something new. And those are the things that in the long term make people happy.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're talking about, what are the life experiences that make people happy. And I had to get my fellow host on, Larry, because he has something to comment about everything. Hey. And just between, we were talking about the relativity of how much money people have. So, Larry, jump in and tell us what you know.
I think it's right. She's right on the nose. I mean, people are mostly happy based upon their peer group. So, not necessarily their culture. I mean, it could be culture, but it's usually their peer group. If everyone in my peer group has the beautiful dress, and I have the beautiful dress, I'm going to be mediocre happy. I'm not going to be jumping up and down. I'm not going to be unhappy. But if I'm the only one who doesn't have the dress, I may be unhappy. I may see that as a symbol of failure. I may see that as not being as cool as my peer group. So whether I make $75,000 or $750,000 depends upon what my peer group is in that regard. In addition to the idea of the purchasing and things like that, the items can do, I guess, kind of temporary fixes. I mean, it's a theory I know out there that the theory that people tend to hover in a certain level of happiness daily, right? Whatever, if you decide to make it from level 1 to 10, the person hovers at, say, 6. And unless you somehow give them some stimulus to make them happier or sadder, they'll kind of hover around 6. So if they hover lower, say around 3 or 4, buying that dress, the power of buying and the good feeling of buying may pump them up from the 3 to a 6, but it's temporary. Once they achieve it, now there's no more glory. They've got to keep buying to keep the 6. It's like that drug. They've got to keep taking more drugs to keep the 6. Otherwise, they keep falling back down to 3 no matter how many dresses they have. So I think she's right in the nose. I think you see it through friends. You see it in drug users. You see it in people with addictive personalities. I think you see it in your friends yourself. I buy the new computer and I feel good, and then someone else buys a better computer. I don't feel so good anymore because my peer group is now better than me, so now I've got to buy something again. Mm-hmm. The idea that the good doctor's work about making yourself better and improving yourself, also a great point, because if I keep thinking that I'm a good person or a better person by my life experiences, by my growth, by all those types of things, then I'll start to have more confidence in myself. I'll start to have more ability to feel that I'm good and great without those things. Mm-hmm. And even when someone else has something, I'll still in my head feel, yeah, but I'm still powerful or good or just or kind or whatever I find is valuable. So I'll still be happier just based upon what I've done or what I think I've achieved. I'm in total agreement.
Well, I want to thank Larry for his thoughtful commentary because he always has it. And I want to thank Dr. Greenberg also. I'm going to move on to some of our other guests. I have another lady on, and I got to tell you, she wrote this great blog, and she specializes she's a voluptuous, beautiful woman, and she also specializes in helping people body. And it's interesting because women, I think they've done surveys, and practically all of us, even those beautiful, like we're talking about those people that we're seeing on Oscars, that they look like they're absolutely perfect in every way. They have a beautiful face, they have beautiful hair, they have the right body, the beautiful skin. Practically, I want to say it was like 97 to higher of women are unhappy with their physical appearance. And so I'm going to bring on Dr. Felicia Clark, who talks about being happy. She does life coaching in addition. And Dr. Felicia Clark, are you there?
I'm here. How are you, Dr. Veronica?
I'm excellent. Thanks for coming back on. So talk about how you help people feel happy about themselves, and especially in a society where there's this particular perfect view that we see in the media.
Yeah, this is a big, big issue, and especially in America because our country was founded on the pursuit of happiness. So we do all these things to pursue, to chase, as opposed to really define what we're looking for and receive it. So there are actually different kinds of happiness, and a lot of people don't know that. They're just maybe they want a certain kind of happiness, but they're taking action steps that will result in a different kind of happiness than what they actually wanted. And so when they get that, it's not satisfying. So what we're taught in the media and in our consumerism, materialistic society, we're taught that type of positive sensation happiness. It's a connection to sensation that exists more in the body, food, sleep, thrills. That kind of happiness is more on the side of hedonism, or just if it feels good, do it. And that connection to sensation is just very fleeting, and there's a lovelessness in it. And so you can have a happy moment, and then you feel empty after. A lot of people with addictive behaviors follow this methodology of happiness. Now, on the extreme opposite side is the connection to a higher power, the listeness, the deep connection to God, but in an extreme sense. So then they're connected to just being one with a spirit, and then they have no desire at all for anything material. And so most people fall somewhere in between. And
now, I want to ask about, you talked somewhat about women and their pursuit of happiness through men and money.
Yeah.
And what happens with that? It's a very hot topic, especially among professional women, and especially these days, a lot of women are financially outpacing men, especially in these times where the professions for men have been going away, and the ones for women, like healthcare workers and teachers, which are professional and solid and will be there because there'll be sick people there, and we're always going to need to teach people, are there. And the men, some of the professions are going away. Those middle management positions that used to pay lots of money, companies are doing without them. So women are having this quandary because even women who are high earners want a man that can take care of them. So what's happening here?
Yeah, I have a whole unit on that I work with my coaching clients on, especially women who are monetarily successful. Men are providers, so they're always providing, whether they're providing money or not. And so a woman really needs to understand that he will provide what he can. So what he has to provide, will that satisfy you? And because we don't think about our needs, we're taught, you don't need anything. You just want a man. You don't need a man. But that's not true. You do need him, and you need him for certain things. And so money just may not be one of them. So I have a whole unit on actually quantifying what you need and putting a dollar amount with it. What kind of house? What's the domain and range of the size of house that you need? How small is too small? How big is too big? We a lot of times say, I want a mansion, but do you want to clean a mansion? Do you want all the maintenance of a mansion? Do you want to secure the mansion? And the average woman actually doesn't. So you really want to think about what is the range of size of home that you really would like to have. And there's a cost associated with it. So how much is that cost?
I'm sorry. Well, Larry's giving you the thumbs down in here in the studio, so I got to let him jump in. You can't see him, so I'm letting him so I know you can defend your point of view. Go ahead, Larry.
This is all nice, but it's there's no way that's going to get you a man. I mean, if you want a man, you've got to be able to communicate clearly, not what you need. The man doesn't really care about that. He cares that you do need. That has to be clear. It's an idea of vulnerability. Yes. Not an idea of I need, and you have to fill that. That's just going to turn a man off. If he thinks that that's what you're looking for, he's going to see you, if anything, as a gold digger, if anything, or he's going to see you as, even though he wants to be that resource for you, he doesn't want to feel like that's what you're making him. He wants to feel like he's voluntarily filling that hole. The more you qualify or quantify what you want, the more you're going to communicate to that man, and the more you're going to turn him off. You're not going to find a man who's going to say, yes, this is great, you need me. You're going to find a man who's going to wind up telling you he fills this gap and doesn't. It's communication more than anything else.
Well,
yeah, I actually agree with you.
Wait, Dr. Felicia, now you got to wait over this break now because because I will give you a chance to answer, and we want to hear what you have to say. But we're here on Wellness for the Real World. I'm Dr. Veronica. Give us a shout, 877-480-4120.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
and this is Wellness for the Real World. I'm Dr. Veronica. Let me just say, come find me on social media. Especially, you can find me on Twitter, Dr. Veronica I, E-Y-E-M-D, Dr. Veronica I-M-D. Like me on Facebook. Hook me up on LinkedIn. Just come find me. drveronica.com is where you can find me. Read some blogs, see from some of my guests, hear from the guests. So we're talking about buying happiness and the correlation between money and happiness. And we were having a heated discussion here with Dr. Felicia Clark and Larry Sharp, who's going to be on next at the Ivory Tower. So you only have to wait a little while longer to hear from Larry, and he always has something interesting to say about life in general. And so now over the break, we were kind of just having a heated discussion about what makes men and women click when there's some mismatch in the money area. And Felicia, Larry saying, no, men have to feel needed, and women have to make men feel needed. And so, Dr. Felicia, what do you say about that? What do you say about women making men feel needed and the money situation?
Yeah, I agree with what Larry said. And I understand what he's saying. That is true. And in other units that I work with women on, we talk about how the feminine and masculine energy match up and that men need to be needed and a woman has to be vulnerable and honest about what she needs. So that is true. However, in this particular unit about money, a lot of women do in the back of their minds feel like, the man's not making enough money, whether they articulate that or not. Many of the women I work with have their own money and assets, and so Larry's comment about, they're not going to get a man with that. They already have men, and in most cases I just work on them to be happy. And so part of being happy is to really know, for women to know how much what you need actually costs. And in most cases, they see that they already have that. And if they don't, it's achievable. They can get that. It's not an astronomical amount. Like at the opening, you talked about like $75,000 a year could be enough. And in a dual income family, a lot of families can get that. Maybe not right now where the economy's strained, but that's within reach for a lot of the women that I work with, or they already have far more than that, but it's just not being spent in the ways that bring happiness. So it is true that ultimately what they'll figure out that they don't know yet is they need things from a man like to be held more. Women need to sleep more. A lot of times there's just too many demands on them, and they're disconnected from their husband or just not experiencing joy in their life because they're too tired. So there are things like that I work with them so that once they do their budget, a lot of times it's not an unreasonable demand unreasonable financial demand that they're putting on men. And that's a relief for women to know, and it's a relief for the man in their life to know.
Very cool. So I'm talking with Dr. Felicia Clark, and if you want to find her, go to eBook Life Coach, ebookLifeCoach.com. I got to get on here the Happy in America. I got to hear, so we're going to hear another male voice about being happy, and Larry doing the fist pump over here. We get another guy on. So what does it take to be voted the happiest man in America? I'm bringing on J.P. Gus Godsey, MrHappyUSA.com, MrHappyUSA.com. Gus, are you there?
I'm here shaking. Thanks, Doc, for having me on. You got great guests on there. Boy, they are a lot smarter than me, I can promise you that.
Well, I thought it's interesting because we have these very educated women who can very theoretically tell us about how to be happy. But we have you, who you actually are, and people have tested you and decided this man is really happy. Probably.
Well, first of all, can I say something?
Say something.
I want to find out about all those women your last guest had on that had all that money. Find out if you can get me their numbers, and then maybe I'll be even happier. Larry knows what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, I'm with you.
Well, it's interesting. We talk about this, and I think what we hear portrayed traditionally is that the men, we still feel like the man's supposed to be the breadwinner and the woman's supposed to be the helpless one, and we're needy and dependent from financially. And I think there's a lot of couples now that's just not how it is. Both people in the couple have great earning power, and it's not that big of an issue.
I tend to agree with what Larry said, and that's just because I am so old school. I mean, Dean Martin and the Stylistics and guys like that I do believe in the traditional family relationship value with the husband is the breadwinner. But I'm realistic enough to know that this is 2013 and that the times have changed. And I think powerful couples that have the agape love that the Bible talks about, and certainly people that counsel relationships, know that if there's a true love and a mutual respect for each other, love has no boundaries in that regards, and they'll be able to get over that. I believe that from my bottom of my heart today. And like Larry said, a man needs to feel needed, and a woman needs to feel respected on the other hand. And if those two things can jive, regardless of who has the biggest checking account, then I think true love can survive and thrive.
It's a valid point. And the other thing to deal here, if you have two people who are making money, that's wonderful. But if the female begins to act like or communicate that the male's income is not important or valid, that's when you start having problems.
Amen.
If she starts to communicate in some way like, I make as much money as you, or if she does the worst thing, when they start fighting, the couples are notorious for this, right? Couples can hurt you more than anybody. They know you the best, right? So they can strike below the belt. Sure. So once the woman does that, even once, that scar doesn't go away. So once she makes that stab and says, I don't need your money or whatever thing she does, that scar is deep. That lands. And when that lands and sticks, the male ego, if he has a strong ego and he feels powerful in other ways, similar to what our other guest earlier mentioned, if he himself feels like he is educated and savvy and wonderful, if he can withstand the blow, fine. If his ego can't stand the blow, he will enact revenge upon her. He will punish her in return. He will in some way put her down, belittle her, make her feel, as Gus says, not respected. He'll punish her in return, and that will eventually erode that entire relationship based off of her saying, I don't need your resources, however she does that. So I go again, communication critical.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to walk on
Go ahead, please.
But I agree with what you said, and that's where the relationship needs counseling.
Yes.
You need some type of intervention from your pastor or somebody, because words have consequences.
100%.
And when somebody says that on either side of the aisle, I think all of us know that we've all said things that we just know were horrible, and we regret saying that.
Here we are, Gus. We're here and you one of your books is about this, and I want to talk about this. How to be happy in hard times. Right now, there are a lot of people going through hard times, and when you're going through hard times, your man's out of work, and you're the one pulling everything, and it's just hard. And so there's some days where you say things, and it's not that you don't love them, but it's like, you know what, baby, we got to figure out something because I'm pulling all the weight, and I'm stressed here. So how do you get to the point where you're happy anyhow? This is what we talk about, and people in church talk about, we're happy anyhow. But how do you get happy anyhow? That's your area of expertise. You have figured out how to be happy anyhow. So enlighten us.
Well, I've been asked that question tens of thousands of times since I got picked the happiest guy. And I've always answered pretty much the same way. It doesn't matter if we're in feast or famine, because as your other caller or guests have said, money doesn't buy happiness beyond a very modest level. That real happiness, and I say it the same thing I've said it forever, is that it starts with having Christ in your heart. I think it also goes into giving back, means giving back many times over. I expect less and give more, because I find great joy in that. It is a proven fact from anybody that's done studies on happiness and the elated feelings, the endorphins that people feel, that the giving lasts far longer than running out and going to a movie or getting a hot fudge sundae, which incidentally, when you ice cream, they did many studies that by the third or the fourth bite, your enjoyment level drops 80 to 90%. But I won't filibuster here, but the two other things there is that it's if you have we make a choice every day, like you said earlier, but if it begins with genuine love for our fellow man, where we respect and love our family and friends and the golden rule, and we stay away from the gossip and the jealousy and the profanity. I personally will not tolerate when people start talking profane or when they start talking about other people. I either disengage, and if they still want to talk about other people, I simply get up and leave the conversation or walk away, because I can choose whether or not I want to be a participant in that. And if you're listening to the dirt, ladies and gentlemen, you're as guilty as the person that's dishing it.
Let me touch the two pieces you brought up real fast, the idea of the man falling down. When the man falls down, here's what I tell a man all the time. Your woman does not care if you fall down. Your woman cares if you don't get back up. In fact, she's okay if you – in fact, she respects you more if you fall down and get back up. She expects you to get back up. So as a man, your goal is to get back up. That's it. Even if it isn't as fast as you could, but get back up. It isn't as good, but get back up. As a woman, how can she facilitate this? It is not by what most will do, an insult, I'm lost. It is not that. Challenge your man. If he has any alpha male in him, and some have more alpha male than others, if he has any alpha male in him, he will respect the challenge. You tell your man something like this, and whenever we talk to your man, honey, I know you're awesome, you're my man. You got to get back up. Get up and do this. I know you can. Get up and do this. And you challenge him in a positive manner, but forward and aggressive in a way that says, I respect you. I know you can. Why are you on the ground? Get back up. If you can't do that, in some relationships, if there's damage, the man can't hear that. If the man can't hear it from her, then she must be savvy enough to find someone else that he respects, an uncle, a brother, a father, some figure that that man respects, and she tells that figure, get in front of my man and tell him to get back up. Get him back up and challenge him. The insult and put down will keep him there, and if he does get up, he'll resent you for it. He'll think he beat the challenge in spite of you, not because of you, and he'll punish you for it. His ego will break. But if you challenge him, he'll get up, and if he can't hear from you because of your baggage in the past, you get someone else he respects to challenge him. That gets your man back up. That keeps.
Those are great points.
Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more, Larry, and it comes down to that support.
Yes.
Now, Gus, I gotta move into a commercial, and so this is Mr. Happy USA, Mr. Happy USA, and I'm Dr. Veronica, and I really appreciate you listening to Wellness for the Real World. I was just speaking with Mr. Happy USA, J.P. Gus, and I want you guys to visit Mr. Happy USA because you got to learn about how to be happy in the hard times. One of his books is How to Be Happy in the Hard Times, and we're going through some hard times. Yes, we are going through some hard times. So Gus, I want to thank you for being so happy and understanding. But I got to get to Dr. Marlene because Dr. Marlene is a perfect setup. You guys is just interesting for the next show. Dr. Marlene McMillan talks about 31 blatantly ignored causes of poverty. 31 blatantly ignored causes of poverty. We're talking about happiness, and the reason why I'm saying that is because Larry's going to come on next and talk about education and ghettos and trailer parks and all this other type of stuff. So, Dr. Marlene McMillan, welcome to Wellness for the Real World.
Well, thank you, Dr. Veronica, for having me.
So now you study this from a different respect, from sort of like the culture and the anthropology, which was my first question in going on. But tell us about this 31 blatantly ignored causes of poverty, because I think that a lot of us see poverty as something that is afflicted upon us by those rich guys down the street on Wall Street, because we're taking all the money from everybody and putting it in their mansions. So what are some of these causes?
Well, people have been conditioned to believe that. But what you have to come to see is that you have way more control over your happiness and over your future, and thankfulness brings more prosperity. So that's one of the first things. The other thing I find, Dr. Veronica, when I talk to people, and I do talk to people in inner city, I've done, inner city D.C., Philadelphia, I've been in Harlem, I've worked with people in the Caribbean and people from Africa who have had every horrible knock against them you could have. But when I get to know them, I find out they have divine ideas. They have thought about something that's greater than themselves. But because of more the social context, they've been discouraged from taking personal responsibility and encouraged to be dependent.
Interesting.
So, I mean, every one of them has an invention inside of them. I met a man who lives at the Salvation Army in Dallas, and he was so, he had class no matter what had happened to him. And I started talking with him, and it turns out his verbal skills were incredible. And he had so many abilities, and they were all laying dormant. And when he got, it was like I had to give him permission to attain what he really wanted to do. And one of my books is Give Yourself Permission to Succeed. But at that moment, he did need some encouragement. But he didn't need much because he had deep inside of him a vision of what he was supposed to be. But let's go back to the other things, though, about what are some of these causes of poverty. And a lot of them have to do with even saying, oh, I don't care about money. Well, how long would your friends hang around with you if you said, I don't care about you? So when we say, I don't care about money, we're in essence telling money to leave our life. We're saying it's unimportant, so we don't take care of things. Poor stewardship, not taking care of what we have. It's like if you gave a performance car to some people, it would look all trashy right away. You give them a brand new, beautiful, top-of-the-line, pick whatever model you want, give them a Maserati, whatever you give them. But their car in a few months is going to look just like the car they're driving now. So I teach people to have the cleanest car, and whatever you have, I don't care what it is. If it's 15 years old, you clean that thing and you take pride in it, and pretty soon it will improve. You'll prove to someone or some way you're going to attract a better car.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're talking about that because it is a concept around it. You gotta take care of things before you're given more. You have to prove that you're able to take care of what you have, and then you will be blessed with more. And people who are blessed with a lot, people think, oh, they're not doing anything, they're not giving anything. I sat today with someone who their whole life is doing charity work, their whole life. And so they've been blessed, and they do charity work. And a lot of people of means do that. They're just not loud about it. And so I want to encourage people to drmarlenemcmillan.com, drmarlenemcmillan.com, 31 blatantly ignored causes of poverty. You have one 30-second snippet, a 30-second snippet that you can say something about health and wealth.
Health? Did you say health?
Health.
Yes, because if a great attitude is going to make you healthier, and it's going to make you wealthier.
Yahoo! This is what I talk about all the time.
When you feel good, it makes you have more energy to be more productive, and you attract. See, wealth is not made, it is attracted. So the more magnetic, the more you have to offer, When people are around you, do you encourage them? Do they feel better when they leave your presence, or do they feel all worn out? I have a cousin I love dearly, but when she calls, I can feel the sucking sound. You know, it's like a vacuum cleaner sucking energy away.
Yeah.
And
Well, Dr. Marlene, I want to hear more stories from you. You are so very charming, Dr. Marlene McMillan. I want to thank everybody who's been on the show today, just because I came in here feeling like yuck, and now I'm just smiling and feeling so good. So I just thank you, and I'm happy and grateful that I have the opportunity to talk to you every week. So thank you, my audience of Wellness for the Real World. Dr. Veronica, Wellness for the Real World. We'll see you again next week.